Making and cutting Kissed by the Dead Sea. This is the first time using Dead Sea mud. In the future, I'll mix some of my reserved oil so it'll be easier to incorporate into my soap batter. I have some blue mica blended into a bit of reserved oils up at the top. Down here I've got light blue blended in with a bit of my reserved oils, but I forgot to add the titanium dioxide, so it's actually the same blue. I'll have to mix that in a bit later. My lye solution is 95 Fahrenheit and my oil mixture is 91 Fahrenheit. With soaping cooler now, I notice that the solution tends to dry around the pot, so I pour through a mesh strainer so I don't get any little bits of the dried lye. I've added my sodium lactate and my EDTA to the prepared oils, and my silk fibers were added and dissolved into my very hot lye solution. I'm trying 3 new things: soaping at lower temperatures, whisking more and stick blending less or none at all, and dividing my proportions before emulsion. These 3 things will help the solution move slower and I can do more intricate designs. Watch the color change as I stir. Kind of darker and lighter. It's because the mixture is not emulsified yet, and this is exactly what I wanted before I divide my large proportion of soap batter into my smaller containers. Since it hasn't reached emulsification yet, I have to keep the solution moving so the oils and water don't separate. It'll take a while to incorporate the mud, so I'm glad I'm doing this before emulsification, because thin trace as I was mixing the mud would cause it to thicken too quickly, and I would not be able to do the design that I planned for this. Really should have used a whisk to whisk the color in. I think it would have been a little bit easier. I got some small whisks, but I'm so used to using my spatulas. And I like to do this color change in slow mode because it looks so cool. Now, if this was emulsified instead of just the oil and water mixture, then it would have blended in the color much more readily. And you'll see once I stick blend that you can see it color change. It goes from this what looks like a darker blue to a translucent, or I'm sorry, opaque. And definitely should have used a whisk when I was trying to blend the Dead Sea mud in. Again, I'm getting back into the swing of things. I haven't made soap for a few years because I had multiple joint replacements and the recovery was horrendous. So I'm just now getting back, and it's kind of like a learning process again. You lose a little knowledge as you wait for 3 years to pass. Now I get smart and switch over to a spatula, from the spatula to a whisk. See how much easier it is? Should have started with that to begin with. Okay, just keeping everything stirred because I don't want it to separate. I'll be getting the fragrance oil in here shortly. And then things move a little quicker. Probably should have put the fragrance oil in first and then hit it with the burst or two. But I want to get that in, blended in quite well before I put the fragrance in. Only thing is sometimes if you haven't used a fragrance oil before, it can make things move a little more faster than you expect them to. This is actually kind of the consistency I would have liked. But by the time I get everything else in, it starts thickening up. So does my light blue. I have multiple little whisks, or little, that's a frother. But I have multiple ones. If one doesn't work well enough, I switch to another. I added the Sun and Sand fragrance oil because it went along with the water theme with the Dead Sea mud. It does smell very nice. Switching now because this one's solid and I think it'll blend it a little bit more easily. You'll quickly see it emulsify and turn opaque from translucent. It's going from that lighter or the darker color to the lighter color. And now I definitely know it's emulsified. As I scrape off, you can see it's resting on top of itself. That means it's at medium trace. Can't believe I forgot my gloves. By the time I worked with the light blue, things moved pretty quickly to thick trace, so I had to alter my plans. Wanted the light blue and the black with the Dead Sea mud to penetrate the light blue, but I ended up having to just churn it instead. Sometimes a boo-boo can turn into a nice surprise. I did really like the way the soap looked after I cut it into bars. I might have to repeat this boo-boo once again because I did like it. Turned out. I think it actually turned out better than I had planned. Just now getting my gloves on. Now to mix up this big old thick mess here. The light blue. Way too thick. I couldn't fit the stick blender in here, or I would have, because sometimes if you give it a nice burst, it'll thin things up. But it doesn't fit in there. Too wide. So I ended up pouring it into the large container and just stick blending it there. See, when I poured from a height, it should have penetrated. That's the way I wanted it to go. But since it doesn't, I just go ahead and get the Dead Sea mud soap batter in there and churn it. And like I said, I really like this, the way it turned out this way. So I'm happy it got too thick. Sometimes things just happen that way. I'm having to really bang it down because with the churning, I want to make sure I don't get any air bubbles, air pockets trapped between the colors. Should have just went ahead and poured it in. I don't think it really helped a whole lot by using the stick blender. Just getting whatever little black is left. I want to waste that Dead Sea Mud soap batter. Banging it again to get that leveled out more before I churn it too. In this I'm not going as deep. I'm just wanting it more or less mixed in or churned in to the Dead Sea Mud. I'm gonna bang it again, getting those air bubbles out, air pockets out, and leveling out the top of the soap batter. And then I'm just cleaning up the sides here, and I'm going to use the tip of the knife to do a little texture and makes it look like little ripples in the water. Now to put it to sleep, so I'm going to wrap it with some plastic wrap, and then I'll wrap it up with towels. This mess up was a happy accident. It looks much like the sea foam in this photo. The batter getting too thick didn't mess up things at all. Oh, it smells so good. So glad I went with that fragrance. So you can see the Dead Sea mud right there, the ocean around there, and the lighter foamy water on top.